What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Weekend Roundup here on Touchline Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content going up on the channel. Talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I want to expand on it now as Arsenal defeat Manchester City 5-1. It's 4 unanswered goals to wrap up the game, make it an emphatic victory, and a win that Arsenal needed. Both from a staying in the title race, continuing to put pressure on Liverpool, feeling like there's still hope that you can catch them standpoint, and from a rivalry with Manchester City point, where you took 4 points from those two games last season. It would be psychologically demoralizing to then allow this City team in this form to come into your building and take points from you when that didn't happen last season when City were playing much better. There was a lot of pressure on Arsenal heading into this game. And they rose to the challenge and then exceeded it. I mean, it was particularly the second half, but a really good performance with many of the themes that I have been talking about. I just am somewhat perplexed at the amount of criticism Arsenal have gotten this season. This idea that they play defensive, they're not aggressive enough, they don't score enough goals, is factually inaccurate when you look at the goal scoring numbers. And I mean, they put up 5 in this game. Yes, if they can get an Ollie Watkins deal over the line, fantastic. Doesn't sound like it's going to happen. Of course he makes them better. But Bukayo Saka's not out there, and they just scored 5 goals against Manchester City. And yes, of course City helped them with some of those, and Kai Havertz missed a golden opportunity that was gifted to him. I'm not saying they're perfect. And yeah, they have gone into more of a philosophy of if we get the first goal, we're going to sit back. We're going to try and see out the game, which is what you have to do sometimes, because if you don't, you're Tottenham. And Ange's getting all kinds of criticism, including from me, for not doing the things Arsenal are doing. So you can't then go criticize Arsenal for doing those things. And I think part of this is obviously the broader context of, okay, if you would have told Arsenal fans at the beginning of the season, this is where City are going to be, this is how the season's going to go, they would have gone, title is ours. And so the reality of they haven't been the team to take advantage, it's been Liverpool, is obviously very frustrating. But this Liverpool team is averaging more points per game than City did last season. It's not like Arsenal are missing some glorious opportunity where everything kind of opens up for them and nobody is there to go contend and they just threw a title away. That is simply not what is happening. So whether they end up taking this down to the wire or catching Liverpool or not being able to catch Liverpool and finishing, 5-8 points behind, whatever it might be, this can still be a really good season. And I talked about this at the end of the last season, that you can't, unless you are a Bayern Munich, a PSG, that really might be the only 2 teams in the 5 major leagues. Maybe you can throw City in this category, that if you don't win the league, it's a failure. That's just not the case with Arsenal. And so we're to this point in the season where they're really the only team that's still putting any kind of pressure on Liverpool. And if you take what they've done in the Premier League and what teams have done domestically and what teams have done in the Champions League, they are the second best team in the world. At least there's a very strong argument to be made. It just so happens that Liverpool are clearly the best team in the world this season. And that's the bar and the challenge of the Premier League, is that usually somebody's going to get up around 90 points. And there are multiple clubs, whether it's City, whether it's Liverpool, whether it's Chelsea, you can go down the list, capable of doing that. So it makes it really difficult. But if you just look at Arsenal's season, they have the second best resume of any team in the world. I don't think that's a hot take, or that's just objective fact based on the Champions League and what they've done domestically. Nobody else has been, outside of Liverpool, have been that consistent across both. And I mean, we're going to get to another team in a minute here that maybe has an argument, but I would certainly put Arsenal ahead of them. And so I just wanted to take a minute to give Arsenal some credit here. This was a really important game. They did everything they possibly could to take advantage of that, to rise to the occasion, to not cave into the pressure, and to take advantage of City's mishaps and City's poor performance while playing really well and scoring a bunch of goals themselves without Bukayo Saka. And so now it just sounds like, at least for 24, 48 hours, the narrative's changing, and everybody wants to heap praise upon Arsenal and talk about, oh, can they go challenge Liverpool now? Is this the turning point? As if they haven't already had a really good season. And that's why I wanted to bring this up before a game like this. This idea of, it just seems like there's so much negative analysis and narratives around this team and the season they're having. And I just don't buy it. To me, it's misplaced. And I think a lot of that has to do with what was expected at the beginning of this season and the way the season has played out. And also the reality that a lot of things went right for Arsenal last season. They needed a lot of breaks to take City down to the very end. Things have not gone their way this season. Whether it's the injuries, it's some of the calls, the second yellows for kicking the ball away and delaying the game, right? Kind of weird stuff, some bad breaks, because that happens sometimes. Doesn't mean there's some conspiracy against them. And yeah, is it always the most fun to watch? No. But it's getting the job done. And like I said, you show me a team outside Liverpool that is across domestic league, Champions League, having a better season. That's where we are. And we just haven't acted like that all of this season. So I wanted to at least have a conversation about that. Two other things to mention real quickly from the weekend in the Premier League. Obviously, Liverpool get a win over a very informed, very tricky Bournemouth team to continue to keep that separation from Arsenal. The two games, though, I want to highlight real quickly. Huge win for Wolves over Aston Villa. That is a disappointing loss for Villa. You've got all of the, especially with City then losing to Arsenal, you've got all these teams fighting for those fourth and maybe fifth spots if the Premier League can hold on to one of those extra Champions League spots. That's not a game, I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but that's not a game you want to be losing points. Huge for Wolves after Leicester go get a surprising win at Tottenham the week before, to come back, get yourself back out of the relegation zone immediately, as Leicester concede, I believe it was the fastest goal at home in the history of the Premier League, and get destroyed by Everton, who are really playing well under David Moyes. Important win for Wolves. Good confidence. That's obviously a very good Villa team that they beat. And then, mentioned Bournemouth's form earlier. They just smashed Nottingham Forest, so Nottingham Forest promptly go score 7 goals against Brighton. None of this makes any sense. Obviously, Forest are not a team that scored a lot of goals. They also don't get ripped apart like they did last week. So this is two very uncharacteristic performances in a row. One of them very bad, one of them very good. Just strange stretch here for Forest, but that's how can you do much more to bounce back from a really disappointing, uncharacteristic performance than to score 7 goals? This team is for real. I expect this team to finish in the top 4. To me, they are the third best team in the league. And they showed you why demolishing Brighton 7-0. The other game I want to mention in Italy, Derby della Madonnina. And yes, AC Milan not having the best season domestically, but they've been a real thorn in Inter's side. Inter have not been dominant. And so you've got this game here. And AC Milan go ahead. Inter has goals disallowed correctly, but they put the ball in the net. They hit the woodwork 3 times. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be their day. Stefan de Vrij comes up with the goal in the dying moments of the game to at least salvage a draw. You combine that with the fact that Napoli also dropped points. From a context standpoint, you've got to feel pretty good. Obviously, rivalry games, always difficult. You got to feel good about this point if you're Inter. But this was also a really, really good opportunity to gain some ground in this title race and to close the gap on Napoli, because they did more than enough to win this game. And they just kept coming inches away from putting the ball in the net and couldn't get the goal to kind of get them going that then would have set up a de Vrij for the winner. But it's an equalizer, not a winner. Inter continue to just not be able to put away AC Milan. So it is 1-1 in the Milan derby. And so this is still, Napoli in control of that title race, but could have been a worse situation for Inter. It's very much one of those, depends on how you spin it and whether you want to look at the way the game played out and the fact that they got this late equalizer. But not the end of the world. They got through it. Still very much in this title race, so we'll see what happens next in Italy. That is all for this edition of the Weekend Roundup. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time.